Nitilupavishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashvat Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitilupavishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashvat Srila Bhakti Vigyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitilupavishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashvat Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitilupavishtam Mahabhagavat Srila Goksharas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitilupavishtam Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Nitilupavishtam Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadash Raghunath Shara Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrind Ki Jai. Namacharishna Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Kshetra Mandal Gaura Mandal Vraja Mandal Mathura Vrindavan Dhan Ki Jai. Sarva Abhishta Bharati Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Radhakund Shamakund Ki Jai. Shri Mana Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya Ki Jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Bol. One second. Okay. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad Bhakti Vedanta Narayanati Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravrajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Virahakatara Ajuhavo Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Vinedustam Sarvabhuta Hridayam Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritam Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Srinvatam Sakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridantasto Yavadrani Vedunati Suritsatam Nashta Preshvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatu Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tavai Vasmi Nachivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhetvam Nayamam Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparadha Lakshay Kshiptastakama Titarangamadhe Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapana Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sorry guys, oh shoot, 1 second, give me 1 second. I'm just paying my internet bill. I just realized that I am a day late. Or not a day late, I think today's the day where it's due. There, success. 1 second, I just need to send this screenshot that I paid. I don't want them to stop the internet right while I'm in the middle. Sushanto. Okay, done. Okay. So now we're beginning chapter 29. Devahuti is going to ask 3 questions here. And this is all about bhakti, this chapter. So this is looks like a good one. Okay, Devahuti Ruvacha. Is everything working right? Yes, okay. Dandavat pranams say Shri Mataji and Indira Mataji. Devahuti Ruvacha Lakshana Maharadhinam Prakrite Purushasya cha Swarupam Lakshate Misham Yena Tat Paramartikam Yata Sankeshu Katitam Yanmulam Tat Prachakshate Bhakti Yogasya Me Margam Bruhi Vistarasha Prabhu. So yeah, we just finished going through Ashtanga Yoga, and now Devahuti is inquiring about bhakti higher. Devahuti inquired, "My dear Lord, you have already very scientifically described the symptoms of the total material nature and the characteristics of the spirit according to the Sankhya system of philosophy. Now I shall request you to explain the path of devotional service, which is the ultimate end of all philosophical symptoms. Bhakti Yogasya Margam, the path of Bhakti Yoga." Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In this 29th chapter, the glories of devotional service are elaborately explained, and the influence of time on the conditioned soul is also described. The purpose of elaborately describing the influence of time is to detach the conditioned soul from its material activities, which are considered to be simply a waste of time. In the previous chapter, material nature, the spirit, and the Supreme Lord, or Supersoul, are analytically studied, and in this chapter, the principles of Bhakti Yoga, or devotional service, the execution of activities in the eternal relationship between the living entities and the personality of God are explained. Devotional service is the basic principle of all systems of philosophy. All philosophy which does not aim for devotional service to the Lord is considered merely mention. But of course, Bhakti Yoga with no philosophical basis is no or more or less sentiment. There are 2 classes of men. Some consider themselves intellectually advanced and simply speculate and meditate, and others are sentimental and have no philosophical basis for their propositions. Neither of these can achieve the highest goal of life, or if they do, it will take them many, many years. Vedic literature therefore suggests that there are 3 elements, namely the Supreme Lord, the living entity, and their eternal relationship. And the goal of life is to follow the principles of bhakti, or devotional service, and ultimately attain to the planet of the Supreme Lord in full devotion and love as an eternal servitor of the Lord. This is an important point. I'm going to save this. Okay. Virago yena purusho bhagavan sarvato bhavet achakshva jivalokasya vivita mama samsriti. Devahuti continued, My dear Lord, please also describe in detail, both for me and for the people in general, the continual process of birth and death. For by hearing of such calamities, we may become detached from the activities of this material world. So she's asking about the process of birth and death. So the first one was to further explain bhakti yoga. And then now, I think that's her fifth question that she's asked. And now her sixth question is continual process of birth and death. Okay, purport. In this verse, the word sangsriti is very important. Shreya Sriti means the prosperous path of advancement towards the personality of Godhead, and sangsriti means the continued journey on the path of birth and death towards the darkest region of material existence. People who have no knowledge of this material world, God, and their actual intimate relationship with Him are going to the darkest region of material existence in the name of progress and the material advancement of civilization. To enter the darkest region of material existence means to enter into a species of life other than the human species. Ignorant men do not know that after this life, they are completely under the grip of material nature and will be offered a life which may not be very congenial. How a living entity gets different kinds of bodies will be explained in the next chapter. This continual stage of bodies in birth and death is called samsara. Devahuti requests her glorious son Kapila Muni to explain about this continued journey, to impress upon the conditioned souls that they are undergoing a path of degradation by not understanding the path of bhakti yoga, devotional service. Kalasyeshvara rupasya paresham cha parasyate swarupam bata kurvanti adheto kushalam jana. Please also describe eternal time, which is a representation of your form, and by whose influence people in general engage in the performance of pious activities. So that's our seventh question. Eternal time. So bhakti, birth and death, eternal time. That's basically it, right? Her fifth, sixth, and seventh questions. Purport. However ignorant one may be regarding the path of good fortune and the path down to the darkest region of ignorance, everyone is aware of the influence of eternal time, which devours all the effects of our material activities. The body is born at a certain time, and immediately the influence of time acts upon it. From the date of the birth of the body, the influence of death is also acting. The advancement of age entails the influence of time on the body. If a man is 30 or 50 years old, then the influence of time has already devoured 30 or 50 years of the duration of his life. Everyone is conscious of the last stage of life, when he will meet the cruel hands of death. But some consider their age and circumstances, concern themselves with the influence of time, and thus engage in pious activities, so that in the future they will not be put into a low family or an animal species. Generally, people are attached to sense enjoyment, and so aspire for life on the heavenly planets. Therefore, they engage themselves in charitable or other pious activities. But actually, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, one cannot get relief from the chain of birth and death even if he goes to the highest planet Brahmaloka, because the influence of time is present everywhere within this material world. In the spiritual world, however, the time factor has no influence. Lokasya mityabhite Lokasya mityabhitmater achakshushash Chiram prasuptasya tamasya nashraye Shantasya karmasva Shantasya karmasvanuvidaya dhiya Tama virasi kila yoga bhaskara. My dear Lord, you are just like the sun, for you illuminate the darkness of the conditional life of the living entities. Because their eyes of knowledge are not open, they are sleeping eternally in that darkness without your shelter, and therefore they are falsely engaged by the actions and reactions of their material activities, and they appear to be very fatigued. Purport. It appears that Srimati Devahuti, the glorious mother of Lord Kapila Dev, is very compassionate for the regrettable condition of people in general, who, not knowing the goal of life, are sleeping in the darkness of illusion. It is the general feeling of the Vaishnava or devotee of the Lord that he should awaken them. Similarly, Devahuti is requesting her glorious son to illuminate the lives of the conditioned souls so that their most regrettable conditional life may be ended. The Lord is described herein as Yoga Bhaskar, the son of the system of all yoga. Devahuti has already requested her glorious son to describe Bhakti Yoga, and the Lord has described Bhakti Yoga as the ultimate yoga system. Bhakti Yoga is the sun-like illumination for delivering the conditioned souls, whose general condition is described here. They have no eyes to see their own interests. They do not know that the goal of life is not to increase the material necessities of existence, because the body will not exist more than a few years. The living beings are eternal, and they have their eternal need. If one engages only in caring for the necessities of the body, not caring for the eternal necessities of life, then he is a part of a civilization whose advancement puts the living entities in the darkest region of ignorance. Sleeping in that darkest region, one does not get any refreshment, but rather gradually becomes fatigued. He invents many processes to adjust this fatigued condition, but he fails, and thus remains confused. The only path for mitigating his fatigue in the struggle for existence is the path of devotional service, or the path of Krishna consciousness. Maitreya uvacha iti maturvachas lakshnam pratinandya mahamuni abhabhashe guru shreshta pritastam karunardita. Sri Maitreya said, O best amongst the Kurus, the great sage Kapila, moved by the great compassion and pleased by the words of his glorious mother, spoke as follows. Purport. Lord Kapila was very satisfied by the requests of his glorious mother, because she was not only thinking in terms of her personal salvation, but in terms of the fallen conditioned souls, of all the fallen conditioned souls. The Lord is always compassionate towards the fallen souls of this material world, and therefore he comes himself or sends his confidential servants to deliver them. Since he is perpetually compassionate towards them, if some of his devotees also become compassionate towards him, he is very pleased with the devotees. In Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that persons who are trying to elevate the condition of the fallen souls by preaching the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, namely full surrender unto the personality of Godhead, are very dear to him. Thus, when the Lord saw that his beloved mother was very compassionate toward the fallen souls, he was pleased, and he also became compassionate towards her. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Bhakti Yoga Bahuvedo Margar Bhamini Bhavyate Sabhava Guna Margena Pumsam Bhava Vibhidyate. Lord Kapila, the personality of Godhead, replied, O noble lady, there are multifarious paths of devotional service in terms of the different qualities of the executor. Purport. Pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness is one, because in pure devotional service, there is no demand from the devotee to be fulfilled by the Lord. But generally, people take to the devotional service But generally people take to devotional service with a purpose. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, people who are not purified take to devotional service with 4 purposes. A person who is distressed because of material conditions becomes a devotee of the Lord and approaches the Lord for mitigation of his distress. So that's 1. A person in need of money approaches the Lord to ask for some improvement in his monetary condition. So one for the mitigation of distress, the other for getting more money. Others who are not in distress or in need of monetary assistance. Others who are not in distress or in need of monetary assistance, but are seeking knowledge in order to understand the absolute truth, also take to devotional service, and they inquire into the nature of the Supreme Lord. That's the third. So this is very nicely described in Bhagavad Gita 7:16. Actually, the path of devotional service is one without a second. But according to the devotee's condition, devotional service appears in multifarious varieties, as will be nicely explained in the following verses. That was only 3. Anyhow. Avisandhaya hingsam dambamatsaryameva va sangrambhi bhinadrik bhava maikuryatsa tamasa. Let's see if there's any comments. Okay. Devotional service executed by a person who is envious, proud, violent, and angry, and who is a separationist, is considered to be in the mode of darkness. It has already been stated in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 1st canto, 2nd chapter, that the highest, most glorious religion is the attainment of causeless, unmotivated devotional service. In pure devotional service, the only motive should be to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is not actually a motive. That is the pure condition of the living entity. In the conditioned stage, when one engages in devotional service, he should follow the instruction of the bona fide spiritual master in full surrender. The spiritual master is the manifested representation of the Supreme Lord, because he receives and presents the instructions of the Lord, as they are, by disciplic succession. It is described in Bhagavad Gita that the teachings therein should be received by disciplic succession, otherwise there is adulteration. To act under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master with a motive to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pure devotional service. But if one has a motive for personal sense gratification, his devotional service is manifested differently. Such a man may be violent, proud, envious, and angry, and his interests are separate from the Lord's. One who approaches the Supreme Lord to render devotional service, but who is proud of his personality, envious of others, or vengeful, is in the mode of anger. He thinks that he is the best devotee. Devotional service executed in this way is not pure. It is mixed and is of the lowest grade, tamasa. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur advises that a Vaishnava who is not of good character should be avoided. A Vaishnava is one who has taken the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the ultimate goal of life. But if one is not pure and still has motives, then he is not a Vaishnava of the first order of good character. One may offer his respects to such a Vaishnava because he has accepted the Supreme Lord as the ultimate goal of life. But one should not keep the company with a Vaishnava who is in the mode of ignorance. Vishayan abhisandhaya yasha aishvaryameva evava archadav archayet yomam pritag bhava sarajasa. The worship of deities in the temple by a separationist with a motive for material enjoyment, fame, and opulence is devotion in the mode of passion. Purport. The word separationist must be understood carefully. The Sanskrit words in this connection are bhinadrik and pritag bhava. A separationist is one who sees his interest as separate from that of the Supreme Lord. Mixed devotees, or devotees in the modes of passion and ignorance, think that the interest of the Supreme Lord is supplying the orders of the devotee. The interest of such devotees is to draw from the Lord as much as possible for their sense gratification. This is the separationist mentality. What's the word for separationist? Pratakabhava. This is a separationist mentality. Actually, pure devotion is explained in the previous chapter. The mind of the Supreme Lord and the mind of the devotee should be dovetailed. A devotee should not wish anything but to execute the desire of the Supreme. That is oneness. When the devotee has an interest or will different from the interest of the Supreme Lord, his mentality is that of a separationist. Pratakbhava. When the so-called devotee desires material enjoyment without reference to the interest of the Supreme Lord, or he wants to become famous or opulent by utilizing the mercy or grace of the Supreme Lord, he is in the mode of passion. Mayavadis, however, interpret this word separationist in a different way. They say that while worshiping the Lord, one should think himself one with the Supreme Lord. This is another adulterated form of devotion within the modes of material nature. The conception that the living entity is one with the Supreme is in the mode of ignorance. Oneness is actually based on oneness of interest. A pure devotee has no interest but to act on behalf of the Supreme Lord. When one has even a tinge of personal interest, his devotion is mixed with the three modes of material nature. Karmanirharamudishya parasmin vatararpanam yajiryashtavyamitiva pritag bhava sasatvika. When a devotee worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead and offers the results of his activities in order to free himself from the inebriaties of fruitive activities, in order to free himself from the inebriaties of fruitive activities, his devotion is in the mode of goodness. And I keep on looking at this word, but I just have a short memory. Inebriate. Inebriate means to make someone drunk, intoxicate. Inebrieties. Inebriate. Anyways, okay. So in order to free himself from the intoxication of fruitive activities, his devotion is in the mode of goodness. Purport. The Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, along with the Brahmacharis, Grihastas, and Vanaprasthas and Sannyasis, are the members of the 8 divisions of Varnas and Ashrams, and they have their respective duties to perform for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When such activities are performed and the results are offered to the Supreme Lord, they are called karmarpanam, duties performed for the satisfaction of the Lord. If there is any inebriety or fault, it is atoned for by this offering process. But if this offering process is in the mode of goodness rather than in the mode of devotion, then the interest is different. The 4 ashrams and the 4 varnas act for some benefit in accordance with their personal interests. Therefore, such activities are in the mode of goodness. They cannot be counted in the category of pure devotion. Pure devotional service, as described by Rupa Goswami, is free from all material desires. Anya bilashita shunyam. There can be no excuse for personal or material interests. Devotional activities should be transcendental to fruitive activities and empiric philosophical speculation. Pure devotional service is transcendental to all material qualities. Devotional service in the Devotional service in the modes of ignorance, passion, and goodness can be divided into 81 categories. There are different devotional activities, such as hearing, chanting, remembering, worshiping, offering prayer, rendering service, and surrendering everything. And each of them can be divided into 3 qualitative categories. There's hearing in the mode of passion, in the mode of ignorance, and in the mode of goodness. Similarly, there is chanting in the mode of ignorance, passion, and goodness, etc. 3 multiplied by 9 equals 27. And when again multiplied by 3, it becomes 81. One has to transcend all such mixed materialistic devotional service in order to reach the standard of pure devotional service, as explained in the next verses. Interesting, very interesting. One second, let me find out how to say this word. Inebrities.
Not a separation. That is not.
Oh, this is something else. Oh, yes. Okay, thanks for pointing that out, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. I'll get it right this time. Separate, not a separationist, separatist. Okay, when that comes up, I'll get it right now. Although I don't think it's going to come up again. Okay. Marguna Shruti Madrena Mai Sarva Guhashaye Mano Gatir Avichena Yatta Gangam Basom Buddho. There's a line missing. I just need to open it up. Give me a second. Just we're on chapter 29. Okay. Chapter 29, verse 1 to 11. 11 to 12. Okay. This is the line that's missing. Lakshana bhakti yogasya nirgunasya hyudahritam ahaituke avyavahita ya bhakti purushottame. Oh, I know this verse. Yeah, this is a very common verse. This is an important verse. I think I memorized this at one point. Marguna shruti matrena mai sarva guhashaye manogatir avichina ita gangam pasor buddho lakshanam bhakti yogasa nirgunasya hyudahritam ahaitukya vaya vahita ya bhakti purushottame. Avyavahita ya bhakti purushottame. This is an important verse. If you want to memorize one of Kapila Dev's verses, this one, there are I think a few, 4 or something like that, are really, actually there's more than that, but yeah, this one especially. The manifestation of unadulterated devotional service is exhibited when one's mind is at once attracted to hearing the transcendental name and qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is residing in everyone's heart. Just as the water of the Ganges flows naturally down towards the ocean, such devotional ecstasy, uninterrupted by any material condition, flows towards the Supreme Lord. I'm just remembering that John V. Harrison song, My heart runs like a river to the sea. Okay. Purport. The basic principle of this unadulterated, pure devotional service is love of Godhead. Marguna Shruti Matrena means just after hearing about the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These qualities are called nirguna. The Supreme Lord is uncontaminated by the 3 modes of material nature. Therefore, he is attractive to the pure devotee. There is no need to practice meditation to attain such attraction. The pure devotee is already in the transcendental stage, and the affinity between him and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is natural and is compared to the Ganges water flowing towards the sea. The flow of the Ganges water cannot be stopped by any condition. Similarly, the pure devotee's attraction for the transcendental name, form, and pastimes of the Supreme Godhead cannot be stopped by any material condition. The word avachinna, without interruptions, is very important in this connection. No material condition can stop the flow of devotional service of a pure devotee. The word ahoituki means without reason. A pure devotee does not render loving service to the personality of Godhead for any cause or for any benefit, material or spiritual. This is the first symptom of unalloyed devotion. Anya bilashita shunyam. He has no desire to fulfill by rendering devotion. He has no desire to fulfill by rendering devotional service. Such devotional service is meant for the Purushottam, the Supreme Personality, and not for anyone else. Sometimes Sura devotees show devotion to many demigods, thinking the forms of the demigods to be the same as the Supreme Personality of Godhead's form. It is specifically mentioned herein, however, that bhakti, devotional service, is meant only for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, Vishnu, or Krishna, not for anyone else. Avyavahita means without cessation. A pure devotee must engage in the service of the Lord 24 hours a day, without cessation. His life is so molded that at every minute and every second, he engages in some sort of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of God. Another meaning of the word avyavahita is that the interests of the devotee and the interests of the Supreme Lord are on the same level. The devotee has no interest but to fulfill the transcendental desire of the Supreme Lord. Such spontaneous service unto the Supreme Lord is transcendental and is never contaminated by the modes of material nature. These are the symptoms of pure devotional service, which is free from all contamination of material nature. This verse is super important to memorize. Salokya sarshi samipya swarupaikatamipapyata. This is the key words right here. Diyamanam nagrinati. Even if offered, the devotee doesn't accept. These four kinds of liberation. Vina mat sevanam jana, without service to me. Jana refers to the devotees. So salokya, sarshti, samipya, and sarupya. These four kinds of liberation, even if offered to them. Diyamanam, even if offered to them, nagrinati, not accepted. The devotees do not accept. Vina, without. Mat sevanam, my service. Jana, the devotees. See, it's such a simple verse. A pure devotee does not accept any kind of liberation. Salokya, Sarshti, Samipya, Sarupya, or Ekatva, even though they are offered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Chaitanya teaches us how to execute pure devotional service out of spontaneous love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hey, this last part isn't in the translation. Vina mat sevanam, without my devotional service. Anyhow, doesn't matter. Lord Chaitanya teaches us how to execute pure devotional service out of spontaneous love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Shikshashtak, he prays to the Lord, O Lord, I do not wish to gain from you any wealth, nor do I wish to have a beautiful wife, nor do I wish to have many followers. All I want from you is that in life after life, I may remain a pure devotee at your lotus feet. There is a similarity between the prayers of Lord Chaitanya and the statements of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Lord Chaitanya prays, in life after life, indicating that a devotee does not even desire the cessation of birth and death. Yogis and empiric philosophers desire cessation of the process of birth and death, but a devotee is satisfied to remain even in this material world and execute devotional service. It is clearly stated herein that a pure devotee it is clearly stated herein that a pure devotee does not desire ekatva, oneness with the Supreme Lord, as desired by impersonalists, the mental speculators, and the meditators. To become one with the Supreme Lord is beyond the dream of a pure devotee. Sometimes they may accept promotion to the Vaikuntha planets to serve the Lord there, but he will never accept merging into the Brahman effulgence, which he considers worse than hellish. Such ekatva, or merging into the effulgence of the Supreme Lord, is called kaivalya. But the happiness derived from kaivalya is considered by the pure devotee to be hellish. The devotee is so fond of rendering service to the Supreme Lord that the 5 kinds of liberation are not important to him. If one is engaged in pure transcendental loving service to the Lord, it is understood that he has already achieved the 5 kinds of liberation. When a devotee is promoted to the spiritual world, Vaikuntha, he receives 4 kinds of facilities. One of these is Salokya, living on the same planet as the Supreme Personality. The Supreme Person in his different planetary portions lives on innumerable Vaikuntha planets, and the chief planet is Krishna Loka. Just as within the material universe, the chief planet is the sun, in the spiritual world, the chief planet is Krishna Loka. From Krishna Loka, the bodily effulgence of Lord Krishna is distributed not only to the spiritual world, but to the material world as well. It is covered by matter. However, in the material It is covered by matter. However, in the material world. It is covered by matter, however, in the material world. In the spiritual world, there are innumerable Vaikuntha planets, and on each one, the Lord is the predominating deity. A devotee can be promoted to one such Vaikuntha planet to live with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's Salokya, to be on the same planet. In Sarshti's liberation, the opulence of the devotee is equal to the opulence of the Supreme Lord. Samipya means to be a personal associate of the Supreme Lord. Samipya means to be, near to the Lord. It means with the Lord, an associate. And Sarupya liberation, the bodily features of the devotee are exactly like those of the Supreme Person, but for 2 or 3 symptoms found, but for 2 or 3 symptoms found exclusively on the transcendental body of the Lord. Shrivatsa, for example, the hair on the chest of the Lord, particularly distinguishes him from his devotees. So, Salokya, same planet as the Lord. Sarshti, having the same opulence of the Lord. Samipya, being with the Lord, being his associate. And Sarupya, having the same bodily features as the Lord. Those are the 4 kinds of liberation. A pure devotee does not accept these 5 kinds of spiritual existence, even if they are offered. And he certainly does not hanker after material benefits, which are all insignificant in comparison with spiritual benefits. When Prahlad Maharaj was offered some material benefit, he stated, "My Lord, I have seen that my father achieved all kinds of material benefits, and even the demigods were afraid of his opulence. But still, in a second, you have finished his life and all of his material prosperity." For a devotee, there is no question